The Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. First thing, this Tuesday, February 25th, is if there's any public input just on the order of business on the agenda. All right, if not, then can I get a motion to approve our agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second. Otten.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Putnam?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes. And then any input, public input on our consent agenda lineup?
Good morning, Linda Montgomery from Fairview, South Dakota. Madam Chair, I'd like respectfully to pull number 8 and number 9 off the consent agenda. Reasons with the new medical marijuana. I have some questions on the certificate. And on 9, there seems to be a discrepancy with what is initially on the amount.
Well, first of all, Linda, on number 8, what's your question?
My question is that on your form, it has no, I'm getting all nervous when you're talking. That there is no amount, we've never set an amount for how many medical marijuana places we're going to have in Lincoln County. And I think it's, this one, it has under,
Is there a question that you had? You said you had a question.
yes, that the applications that, are there ordinance limiting the number of medical cannabis establishment within the jurisdiction? And the answer is no. And there's also, are there zoning ordinance? Yes. But the one I have an issue with is that we don't have a limiting amount of medical cannabis. And I feel when we're, as a citizen, I feel like I would like to talk about if we have a new establishment coming into Lincoln County and how many of these medical marijuana offices or whatever are we going to allow in Lincoln County? When they're on the consent agenda, the public doesn't get to know those things.
And then what was, on number 9, why did you want to take that one off?
Okay, the first, on the sheet, on the first sheet, it says 26,625 for a 3-year term. On the service order, it has the annual subscription fee is 26,625. So on here, it looks like that's going to be for 3 years. And on the service board, it's actually per year. And that's confusing to me. Are we paying 3-year period or yearly? And I understand what they probably mean is that amount yearly for 3 years at the extent of the contract. To me, it's confusing.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to move items 8 and 9 on our consent agenda to the regular business agenda?
Sure, I'll make a motion. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, I've got a motion to move
I
items
second it.
8 and 9 and a second from Putnam. Alicia, you go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Putnam?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes. So those will be moved to the end of our regular agenda. And then with that, items 1 through 7 on our consent agenda, can I get a motion to approve those?
Move for approval.
Second.
Thank you. Got a motion and a second. Will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Putnam?
Yes.
Landine.
Yes. All right, first item of business on our regular agenda, we've got a board action to pass a resolution to support to dedicate Highway 44 Bridge over Long Creek in the city of Lenox to the lasting memory of Captain Verlin Gwen Meyer. Joel, you want to tee that up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Paul McVeigh is a teacher in the Lenox School District, and Mr. McVeigh and his son have been working on a project in which they are going to nominate and recommend that gentleman by the name of Verlin Meyer be recommended to have a bridge named after him in Lenox. This is part of a school project for Mr. McVeigh that he's been working on for a while. And Mr. McVeigh recently approached the city of Lenox, and I see Nate Vanderplatz here in the audience today. Thank you for being here, Nate. City of Lenox passed a resolution in support of Mr. McVeigh's project, and now they've asked the county commission to do the same. Before I get into Mr. Meyer's background, just a little bit of background on the issue of the bridge renaming process. What will happen is these applications are due by April 1st of every year. And there is a committee in Pierre which you send these applications to, and then they decide whether or not all the requirements have been met and whether the achievements and/or the sacrifice of the individual is worthy of naming a bridge after them. This project has been around, I think, for a couple years now. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And recently, there was a Beersford soldier, Army soldier from Beersford, who made the ultimate sacrifice in Vietnam. I think he was a Union County resident, though, at the time. And so I was at that during Veterans Day this last year, and the governor's husband, Byron Nome, was there for that, and went very well. And so with this resolution here, and we've just slightly modified it from the one that I originally submitted, this will be the first bridge in Lincoln County named after a fallen hero, and we've added that to the resolution. I want to talk about Captain Meyer for a moment as well. Unfortunately, Vietnam soldiers didn't get the welcome home that they probably should have from this country. And so now it's up to our generation to make sure that we make right on that. And as part of that process, and as part of teaching children and the public about the sacrifice that young men and women have made for this country throughout the ages, it's appropriate that we now recommend and talk about Captain Meyer. And I'm going to talk about Captain Meyer just for a few minutes here, but then I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Schmidt, and he's going to talk about Captain Meyer as well. And I'm very interested in what Commissioner Schmidt has to say, because he had a personal relationship with Captain Meyer during high school. Captain Meyer joined ROTC through the University of South Dakota, same program I went through 40 years later. Great program, has produced exceptional soldiers throughout the ages, and Captain Meyer joined the Army. He became a Huey pilot. So those are the helicopters that you see in the movies and TV all the time. And his job was to ferry soldiers around, equipment, goods, but he was also part of a gunship team, and he was the pilot. And unfortunately, on one of the missions that he was on, he was taken down by enemy fire, and all souls were lost on board the helicopter. And that happened in August 22nd of 1968. So nobody survived. They were all killed in action. And Captain Meyer, for his achievements and sacrifice, was awarded, among other things, the Distinguished Flying Cross. It's essentially one of the highest awards you can win or not win, but you can be awarded for service in the military while providing aviation support. And he received a number of other awards as well. But the man exhibited during his lifetime selfless service on behalf of his country, as well as his flight crew in the Army. And it's high time that we recognize his service and the service of others. And it's high time that Lincoln County get in the game with regard to naming our first bridge after him. So I think this will be good for the community. This will be good for the family. It'll be good to honor the memory of Captain Meyer. And I want to thank Mr. McVeigh and the Lenox School District for spearheading this effort. And I want to thank the Lenox City Council for participating as well. And hopefully today, we as a county commission sign off on this. We are the last hoop that Mr. McVeigh has to jump through, and after us, he'll take our resolution today and submit that to the state. And I highly encourage the state of South Dakota to recognize this, and hopefully by next Veterans Day, we're going to name this bridge in Lenox after Captain Meyer. So, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Schmidt?
I knew Verlin Dean Meyer very well. As kids, we grew up together. And we have many fond memories of all the wonderful things that we did. Most of them should remain in history. Some of them, I doubt if Elmer and his mom would have approved. I know Ray and Mabel wouldn't have. But anyway, I always wanted to show that Verlin was a guy who was always willing to take the extra step. He was a risk taker. He was one that always had no fear on certain things. So we followed him through high school. I know he was married. His first wife was Muriel Sherrod. As a kid, we were part of that. So we have a lot of fond memories of Verlin when he went, and he chose the University of South Dakota, ROTC. Several of our friends saw him after his first deployment to Vietnam when he came back, and he went back for a second time, and then he came back from there, and then he was going to go for the third time. So, it's fitting, and I want to thank Commissioner Ahrens and for leading on this thing and getting his resolution put together. I'm not going to repeat what he said, but what he did say is right on. It's high time we do that. There are some things on the bridge, I think, that I talked to Mr. McVeigh yesterday at the high school, and I think there is a stone on the bridge somewhere that is a date and the same date in which he was shot down or killed, something like that. Nate, if I'm correct.
I think it's a headstone or a cornerstone.
Yeah, a cornerstone, which is ironic that bridge gets named and this kind of stuff. So without any further ado, Commissioner, do you want to read your resolution? And I'll be happy to second it.
Sure, I can read this for us. We'll get to the pertinent part here. Whereas Verlin Meyer was born near Lenox, South Dakota, September 20th, 1942. He graduated from University of South Dakota in 1964. Captain Meyer was assigned to the 92nd Assault Helicopter Company of the United States Army. Captain Meyer was a pilot of a UH-1C gunship. Captain Meyer's gunship took hostile fire in South Vietnam on August 22nd, 1968. Captain Meyer and all aboard the gunship were killed in action. Captain Meyer was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross and a number of other awards. Captain Meyer's selfless service and sacrifice in the United States was memorialized on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall. The City of Lenox passed a resolution asking the state of South Dakota to rename the bridge that crosses over Long Creek to be named the Captain Verlin Gwen Meyer Bridge. This would be the first bridge in Lincoln County to be renamed by fallen heroes. And so with that would be my motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion among the board? All right, any public input on this agenda item? All right, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Putnam?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Nate.
Next item, Terry?
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Terry Flight, Highway Superintendent. Had some bid openings last week for supplies, and we have a micro bid in here as well for our items this morning. So first item I have is board action to award crushed concrete bid to Knife River for $10 a ton. There were two bidders on this. The other bid was LG Everest, and they were at $11 a ton, so. I
All
am
right.
recommending awarding to Knife River for $10 a ton.
Anybody have questions for Terry? All right, any public input on this agenda item? All right, if not,
Move for approval, Madam Chair?
thank you.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. We call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Putnam?
Yes.
Landine?
Abstain. Next item on our agenda. Terry?
Next item I have will be cutting edges. So we bid two types of cutting edges for our plow trucks and our motor graders. The first one is a 3/4 inch by 6 inch by 4 foot carbide plow blade. And then the other one we bid is a 7/8 inch by 6 inch 4 foot rubber flex blade. We had two bidders, we had three bidders on this. We have two of them that we're splitting the bid up. So it's my recommendation to award a bid to DMC Wear Parts for the 3/4 by 6 by 4 foot carbide plow blades in the amount of $230.72 apiece. And award equipment blades for the 7/8 by 6 inch by 4 foot rubber flex blades in the amount of $360 apiece.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Terry? All right, any public input on this agenda item? If not, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Aaron's, second by Schmidt. If there's no further discussion, Alicia, we call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Putnam?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes. All
Next
right.
item I have for you is to award bid for diesel fuel and gasoline ethanol gas. Again, we had two bidders for this item. And the low bid goes to Coles Petroleum. Again, that's my recommendation to award to Coles Petroleum for number 2 diesel fuel in the amount of $2.47 a gallon, and to award to Coles Petroleum for the ethanol gas in the amount of $2.47 a gallon.
Wow, that's pretty good.
All right, any questions on this item? All right, any public input on this agenda item? All right, if not, can we get a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second, Otten.
I'll take the second from Commissioner Otten. And if there's no discussion, I would go ahead and call the roll.
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Putnam?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes. Next item.
All right, next item I have for you, we only had one bidder for this item. So we're going to award to Dustbuster Enterprises LLC for magnesium chloride and application in the amount of $1.52 a gallon.
All right, anybody have any questions about that? All right, any public input on that item? All right, if not then, can I get a motion?
So
Move to
moved.
approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Schmidt, second from Commissioner Aaron's. Any discussion? All right, we call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Otten?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Putnam?
Yes.
Landine?
Yes. Next item.
All right, next item I have, again, this item here, this is for hot mix asphalt. We had two bidders on this. We had Knife River and we had Merle & Roy's bidding on this. So the bid was for Knife River was $68 a ton, and Merle & Roy's is $69 a ton. So what I would like to do on this is, my recommendation, or what I'd like to do is award to both, but we will be going to Knife River, and I suppose I should give you a little background on this for location. So Knife River is located off of Madison Street exit in Sioux Falls. That's their west plant, and they also do have an east plant, which is on, I don't know, what street is that out west? Or
Rice
east
Street?
side, over there,
Rice Street?
Rice Street.
Nice street.
So if we go straight up the interstate, so typically our haul is gonna be up 229, we can get off and go to Madison Street, it's fine. But there are many times when Knife River kicks us out because one, they're either too busy or they have a breakdown, and they kick us over to the east plant. Well, when they kick us over to the east plant, I would like to go to the new Merle & Roy's plant, which is located off of exit 71, County Road, or the Harrisburg exit, County Road 110 down there. And my justification for that would be, the distance we travel, and the fuel consumption going over to the east side. We're gonna be consuming more fuel, more time, going over there. And again, to me, at the bottom line is production for us as well. Cause this year we do have, about 7 miles that we're looking to pave ourselves. And, we're gonna need to get production, and I'm hoping to get all 7 of those paved this year, so. But that would be what my plan is to do. And again, I have it in the facts and vetting that we will haul out of Knife River on the west side until they kick us to the east side. And then I would like to go down to Merle & Roy's plant at exit 71, so.
Anybody have any questions for Terry?
Terry, when you pave like 7 miles of road like that, just so the public knows, how many truckloads is that?
It's gonna be about 15 to 1,700 ton per mile. I'd have to do the calculations to math that out.
So we're talking substantial savings here that you achieve by doing
Correct,
that.
and we had kind of penciled it out, and even going to Knife River on the west side, which is straight up the interstate, that extra time is gonna be about a half hour a day, or a half hour per round that they make. 15 minutes up, 15 minutes back. And to the project where we're looking to go this year, we're probably gonna be that's gonna put us about an hour 10, hour 15-minute rounds. And, if we could go up to the new Merle & Roy's plant at 271st, I mean, we could probably get one for sure extra load a day or extra round for the whole trucks, whatever we usually have 7 or 8 trucks. And, but going to the east side, we'll easily be able to get 2 extra rounds if we can go to the Merle & Roy's pit, or the Merle & Roy's plant on 110 over there, so.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. The Merle & Roy plant's quite a bit closer than the Knife River plant. Dollar to a dime deal, that buck for a ton. Wouldn't it still be cheaper to go to Merle & Roy's on the east or south here? Or do you think? they might
The
run-
way we penciled it out, going to Knife River rather than Merle & Roy's is gonna be right at a wash. So basically you're looking at $13 a ton or $13 per truckload difference. And the time we take and the fuel consumption going up for that extra half hour up and back is probably gonna take that $13.
Okay.
So it's gonna be a wash. At that point, it's just a matter of making the quicker trip would be
Yeah.
down at the new plant,
I
but
guess that was my contention, yeah.
All right, any other questions? All right, any public input on this agenda item? If not, and there's no discussion, we can go ahead and call the roll, please.
Do we need a vote?
motion.
Oh,
Or
my
motion?
bad. How about a motion?
Move to approve.
I got a motion from Commissioner Aaron's.
Oh, I'd make a motion to approve it, yeah.
And
There we
a
go.
second from Commissioner Putnam.
I'll second.
I've got a motion from Aaron's and a second
There
from
you go.
Putnam.
Okay,
There we go.
all right.
We're on track now.
Some good, more's
Now we're
better.
good.
All right, now if there's no discussion, will you call the roll?
Of course. Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Otten,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Putnam,
Yes.
Landine.
I'll abstain. All right, next item.
All right, next item I have is board action to award the 2025 microsurfacing project to Asphalt Surfacing Company in the amount of $951,596.22. We had 3 bidders on this project, and the project came in about $240,000 underneath the other engineer's estimates, so. And we have about 15 miles that we're going to be doing this year, so.
Have we used these people before, Terry?
What's that?
Have we used this company before?
No. This is a local company out of Sioux Falls.
Oh.
The last 3 years, 4 years, when we've done our micro, we've had Aztec,
Yeah.
which has been out of Minneapolis. They've done a very good job, so this is a new contractor for us.
Well, good. It's local.
All right, any other questions? All right, any public input on this agenda item? All
Move
right.
for approval, Madam Chair.
Got a motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
And I've got a second. Alicia, we call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Otten,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Putnam,
Yes.
Landine.
Yes, motion carries. Next item.
All right, next item I have is to award a bid to Knife River for quartzite riprap in the amount of $30 a ton for Class A, $30 a ton for Class B, and $30 a ton for Class C. There were 2 bidders on this one as well. So,
All right, any questions? Any public input? All right, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Got a motion to approve, is there a second?
I second it.
I've got a second. If there's no discussion, Alicia, we call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Otten,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Putnam,
Yes.
Landine.
I'll abstain. Next
all right.
item.
Next item I have is board action to award a bid to Blackstrap Incorporated for rock salt and delivery in the amount of $81.24 a ton. There were 3 bidders on this item, so, but they were the low bid.
All right, any questions for Terry? All right, any public input on this agenda item?
Move for approval, Madam Chair.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Alicia, you would call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Otten,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Putnam,
Yes.
Landine.
Yes. Yes, got it. All right, next item.
All right, next item I have is, so this is for our weed chemical that we use for spraying weeds. I'm going to be awarding to 3 different vendors on this. The first award is going to go to Nutrien Solutions for Tordon, the amount of $48.88 per gallon, or $122.20 for 2.5 gallons. The next award, we're going to go to, and the next one for the Milestone, Nutrien and Miles and Van Diest Supply. They were tied on the bids, so we drew cards on that, and Van Diest had won that out. So we're going to award it to Van Diest Supply for Milestone in the amount of $290 a gallon, or $725 for 2.5 gallons. And then the last item we're going to award is Freelex, and we're going to award that to Hefty Seed Company, the amount of $32.50 a gallon, or $8,125 for a 250-gallon tote.
All right, anybody have any questions for Terry?
Terry, not really a question about the weed chemical issue, but overall about all these bids. What did you learn this year? Are prices dramatically up or down or in the middle? I mean, when you were going through this whole bid process, what are you learning about the economy and prices and how that affects us?
So for cutting edges, they were about steady from what they were last year, maybe slightly higher. The chemicals here, they're probably right in line. The fuel was cheaper than last year, fuel bids were. So that came down. The asphalt prices for hot mix, those were pretty steady from last year. I mean, they're right around in the ballpark, so I guess, for overall, there are a few items that we've seen some dropping on. I think even on the salt delivery, I think that stuff might have went down slightly, from what we were at, so.
Is the, little off topic, but have we saved some money this year because of not as much snow?
Oh, yeah, that always helps.
Okay.
Yep, that helps, so it's kind of weird because the snow budget's always pushed into 2 different years, you have the end of last year. So even for 23, 24 winter, I mean, it was a very mild winter and we didn't have a whole lot for usage. Because actually we had quite a bit of salt left from last year. And I know that we didn't typically on our salt, we'll get summer filled on that. But we didn't do any of that this year because we wanted to move our salt pile around and kind of get all the old stuff out from the back before we brought more in. And we just started hauling it in here last fall, probably October, November last year. And even at that, I don't know, maybe we've hauled in 500, 800 ton so far, but like I said, not a lot going on out there, so that's a good thing, but, it kind of doesn't make a difference for the most part. If you get an inch of snow, we're going out, we go out and treat stuff, or whether you get 6 inches of snow, you go out and treat. We have a little higher application rate for a little more snow, but even at the 1 inch, you're doing about as minimal as you can do just to get the roads cleared off, so usage is still there. And we've had quite a few small events this year, but overall, I think we're down, for usage, so.
Thank you, Terry.
Thank you. Anybody else have questions for Terry? All right, any public input? If not, consider a motion.
Move to approve.
Got a motion from Commissioner Aaron's. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Schmidt. If there's no further discussion, Alicia, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Otten,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Putnam,
Yes.
Landine.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item.
All right, last item I have, I believe. So, basically, this year is, I'm looking for, authorizing the chair to execute an agreement with the South Dakota Department of Transportation for the emergency relief funding reimbursements due to the June 2024 flooding. We already had an agreement in place, but the state modified Section 4 of this agreement, clarified some language in there, so this is a new agreement. None of the numbers have changed for the projects, it's just modification in language, so it's a new agreement to sign off on. So.
Anybody have any questions for Terry? All right, any public input on this agenda item? If not, can I get a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a
Second.
second? Got a motion from Commissioner Aaron's, a second from Commissioner Schmidt. Alicia, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Otten,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Putnam,
Yes.
Landine.
Yes. All right,
thank you.
thanks, Terry. Harold, you're up. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Number one, as a citizen of the county, I would want to say thank you for approving the bridge project for Captain Meyer. I too remember him and his family. I knew of him. I didn't know him well. And his wife's family also. Him and Commissioner Schmidt were a little bit ahead of me in school, so, which just means I'm not the oldest one in the room. That's a good thing. In the next few minutes, I'll give you a brief update of the emergency management program in Lincoln County. And using the format that was given to us, we'll do a little bit of a description of the department, what happened in '24, what we want to accomplish in '25, and then look forward to 2026. The functions of the emergency management department is I coordinate with and support Lincoln County first responders, including the fire, EMS, law enforcement, and the 911 center. I have a fire and EMS background. I've been a firefighter for quite some time. And when, I don't go to every fire, but if there's a major fire, I go there to help them coordinate and maybe bring in outside resources that they may need. And if everything's going well, have sense enough to stay out of the way and let them do their job. With the law enforcement, I am the primary pilot of our county drone. We use it for search and rescue when needed. We have one other deputy that is also a pilot and can successfully run our drone. The 911 center, I work with them as much as possible. Without the 911 center, none of the first responders would happen in Lincoln County. Thanks to Todd Baldwin and his staff, we have one of the best 911 centers in the state, barring none. So we are thankful for that. Also, I try and develop good working relationships with cities, townships, and of course, you folks, the county officials. Try and keep everybody updated on what's going on as much as possible. And I try and go to each city council meeting once a year, just to, so they know who I am and so forth. There's a few changes in the councils yearly. Townships, I try and know somebody in each township real well, so if we have an issue, like our recent disasters, that we have a good relationship there. Try and maintain and update an accurate contact list of personnel in cities, townships, and major businesses, utilities, and the schools. All of these groups I work with, and just like in the other situations, if you know somebody well in those institutions, it's a lot nicer or easier to work with them when something goes wrong. If you show up on a scene after something happens and you've never met them before, they're going to say, "Who the heck are you and what are you doing here?" So if we have that relationship established prior, it works a whole lot better. Also, I need to complete all the requirements for the LEMPG program, which is our local emergency management program grant. This is a grant from the state through FEMA that pays for half of my salary and administrative expenses. And over the years, they've cut this back a little bit. They used to pay for all of my travel expense throughout the county, my gas, and things like, maintaining the generators, and now they've cut that back to just the salary and the immediate administrative expense. So, and then now in '25 also, we took another 10% cut in that program, and we reflected that in our budget for '25. And hopefully, we don't get cut back anymore, so. Looking back at 2024, of course, everybody knows we had some rain in Canton here in June, 18 to 20 inches right here in town and the surrounding area. Cedar Street and Dakota Street became rivers in town here. Cedar Street comes from the north, from the backside of the school. When it gets down to the parking lot behind Sturdivant's, it comes across there and comes right towards the courthouse. There was sandbags in front of the door, that's the entrance to the sheriff's office, the 911 center, and my office. And my office had about 2 inches of water in it for a while because so much water accumulated in the park north of us here. There was nowhere for it to go for a while. Rural Lincoln County also received a lot of damage, and we'll reflect that in a minute here. Crisis Track is a new damage assessment program, and for those of you that went to the Townsend Township meeting last year, this program was just initiated then, and it was really an asset for us. It was a program where you can take a laptop or your phone or a tablet, go to a damaged site, and bring the app up and hit start. You can go from the beginning of the damage on the road to the end of it. It'll measure that for you, put in the GPS points, tell you how much gravel is needed to fix it and the cost. And if there's road base that needs to be there, it brings that cost forward too. So it was a lot simpler to figure some of these things. This is all according to the FEMA cost codes. In that process, we had almost 1,600 entries into that system. 291 of them were homes that were in Canton and the surrounding area that had some damage, and those folks were able to get to a website and register that damage in Crisis Track. 32 were commercial businesses like apartments and so forth that had damage. So as you can see, this program really helped us a lot, and when FEMA got here, they were able to use some of these exact same things. Public assistance has a acronym of PA, we always call it. That's roads, bridges, culverts, and townships and the cities around. Individual assistance, or IA, is the home damage. So in the PA part of it, we had $11 million that was registered as preliminary damage in the county. And this doesn't count the home damage. I don't have a total of that on the top of my head. FEMA came this year and were very professional and helpful, better than I've ever seen. They, all the people of those 291, we went to many of those homes right here in Canton. Carla was able to loan me 2 personnel from her office to go with us because they know these homes, they know which ones to go to first, next, and later, and were a great help to us. So that was a great help to the people from FEMA that came to look at these homes. We went in basements all up and down Cedar Street, some on Dakota Street. And then the second day, they brought in another team, which also went out to the rural areas and talked to some of those folks. Once FEMA set everything up here in Canton, they had a individual assistance group set up in the old bank building, kitty-cornered from the courthouse here. And they went to every one of those 291, or at least contacted those people to make sure if they had questions, they could answer them. When later on, they set up the Disaster Recovery Center in the depot on the west side of Canton here. We used the upstairs, which is the museum, and FEMA was glad to have that space. They really enjoyed it. Once this all gets set up, it becomes a federal building with an armed guard at the door. So it's, the city of Canton was great to allow us to use this building, and it provided a good place for citizens to come and get their questions answered either by phone or coming into the door personally. What you're seeing here is one of the 22 rescues we did during the flood. What you're seeing there up in the screen about right here is the top of a Jeep. That's on Highway 44 west of the Worthing exit. If you know where Cooper's Seed and Supply is, this is just west of there, about a quarter of a mile. The post you see there is marking a culvert. These two young ladies were in this vehicle driving through the water, and somebody came from the other way and splashed water up on them, and they lost their bearings and went in the ditch. Before the vehicle completely submerged, passerbys got them out of there, one of them being a paraplegic. When I got there, everybody was fine, so usually we just leave the vehicle there till the water goes down, because you don't want a monkey in that water. However, this young lady said, my wheelchair's in there, and that's the only one I've got, and it's about an $8,000 chair. So I called a wrecker company from Sioux Falls, whose owner happens to be a diver. I said, can you come out and look at this? If you think we can get this vehicle out of here, we'll do it. If you say no, we're gonna leave it. So he came out, after 3 dive attempts, got a strap around the front wheel and got the vehicle pulled out so we could drain the water out and get her wheelchair back. So there was a lot of this went on during that time, because some of it was just people being dumb driving through water where they shouldn't and their vehicle stalled. So GF&P helped us with that too, and the departments from Canton here, Fairview, Lennox, and Worthing were all a part of these rescues that we did. So looking forward to 25, we hope for normal operations and no disasters. That would be a good thing. I've lost track of how many we've had since I've been the emergency manager. At one point in time, we had 3 disasters in a year and a half. So we've done enough of that here, and we just soon have things go along at a normal pace. One thing we are hoping to get done this year is achieve the full implementation of the regroup notification system. This is a system that would have the capability to notify everybody in Lincoln County or a certain group or area. Todd Baldwin did a lot of work on this program in conjunction with Jake and a little bit from me to find this program. It looks to be the best one that we found. It, like it says, it allows selective communication to the people of Lincoln County. We can also draw a circle on a map and notify only those people in that circle, should we have an area that needs to be vacated or public kept back. And it uses the public available phone records, so nobody has to subscribe. Many of these programs, you have to subscribe to be a part of them, and this one you do not. The people will have the option to opt out of it should they choose, but that wouldn't be very wise when we have something that's going to be this good. So it's, it got an active social media interface, and it only needs an internet to operate, so it's pretty much a standalone system. Looking forward to 26, if I'm not going too long here. Continue to work with all the agencies like I've mentioned before, and receive continued training provided by the state. We're required to take one classroom course each year as part of our program. Continue to support our state office as a member of our State Incident Management Assistance Team, or the IMAT. I started with that program in 2007, which was the inception of it. We went up to Brown County and worked there. Since then, I've worked twice in Eagle Butte. I worked in Pierre and Fort Pierre during the flooding in 2011, Dakota Dunes in 11, and the latest deployment I had was the Delmont tornado. I spent a week there working with those folks to help them through the situation that they had there. We'll try and also keep the budget as low as possible. My budget doesn't change a lot. As, some things increase, your budget does go up a little bit. It is in my budget in '25 to get a new vehicle. The one I have is 10 years old and has about $165,000 on it, so we thought it'd be time to get a new one, and that is in my budget. We've started the process to make that happen, so I'll be coming before the commission with that before long. With that, if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them. Otherwise, I'll sit down and be quiet.
Anybody have any questions for Harold?
Harold, you're the hardest working emergency manager in the state of South Dakota.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, I hear from other emergency managers, and they all say you're lucky to have Harold Timmerman as your guy. So I want the rest of the county to know that. I saw you out there during the flooding in 2024. Me and my son were out there, and we saw you pulling people out. And I saw Commissioner Schmidt out there. So I know that some of us were out there driving around, taking care of folks, and I personally saw you out there. So thank you for all the work you did during that as well. It was, people don't realize how lucky, or they take things for granted until things are taken away. And during the flooding, there was a lot of roadway taken away where people couldn't get to where they needed to go. And I think, when people have limited transportation like that, they kind of understand how lucky they are to have the kind of transportation that we do here in the roadways. On your presentation there, you said we had $11 million in damage to the public infrastructure. Is that right?
Yeah.
Did you get any kind of numbers on what was reported to you for private, damage to private folks?
I did not,
Okay.
And I maybe can get back into the system and find that, but I didn't do it, and I apologize, I should have done that. But there was quite substantial, and, like I mentioned, FEMA was the best this time I've ever seen them. And I made it a point, when the federal coordinating officer from Region 8 was in Sioux Falls, I made it a point to let him know that too, because that's an important thing, because sometimes in the past, we've had FEMA personnel that you can't understand, and they can't understand us. And the paperwork that was used to be done, they'd lose part of it when somebody would move out and another one come in. This crisis track process was a godsend for us, so.
One thing I want to talk about is this regroup program. I know a lot of counties, I don't know here in South Dakota how many counties, but I know there's a few in Iowa locally that use a pretty similar type program. The city of Sioux Falls has a similar type program. I think citizens in this day and age want communication and they want it immediately because they've become conditioned to use social media. And sometimes, when the government doesn't move fast enough, people either, people rely upon what social media says or they mistakenly rely upon it. And if we, I'd be very interested, obviously, in seeing what the cost is and all that, but I'd be very interested in seeing what that capabilities that brings to us, in terms of like, can you announce emergency snow routes? Can you announce other types of emergency, all those things, I'd like to see something on that.
We're looking into all those capabilities and hope to bring them all forward as much as possible. And this works with all the cell phones, too. So even if they're at work in Sioux Falls and they live in the county, they're going to know what's going on here or that we have an issue that needs to be addressed. So hopefully we get this going. It's getting close to fruition, and in the next month or two, hope to get it all going.
No, I appreciate that, because I think what's happened is, just by default, the sheriff's office, they have a Facebook site, and it becomes very popular because they're, our sheriff's office is manned 24/7, and they're kind of the communication, command and control center, and they've got all the information, and they tend to put some of that information out. So I think by default, for whatever reason, the sheriff's Facebook page has kind of served some of that, but it would be good to have a more, comprehensive system just beyond Facebook.
Right,
So-
and this program will do that, and you almost need somebody to monitor the social media stuff when things are going on, because so much wrong information gets put out there, and you need to be able to correct that or take it down. So, and this will work with that, and hopefully we get it all going soon.
Thank you, Harold.
Yes,
Anybody else have any questions for Harold? All right, thank you.
thank you.
I'm gonna do one real quick. Any public input on Harold's presentation?
Scott Montgomery Fairview. I just want to say thank you, Harold, because I've seen Harold in action, and I think when his time to retire comes, we're going to have a hell of a time filling those shoes, and I just want to say thank you so very much. I also want to give a little toot to the Fairview people. During that flood, there was an private individual that took his boat, and I think he saved 7 lives out of that river. He took the Fairview Fire Department with him, but he used his own personal boat, and I think we should give Corey Limbs of Fairview, South Dakota, a big hand. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, John, you're up. Good morning.
Good morning. John Rombo, Building Superintendent. So, just for note, when you do go to the budgeting, I'm listed as general government buildings. That kind of came up in conversation the other day, and I thought, maybe I should point that out to you commissioners, because sometimes you have a hard time figuring out which one is my budget. So, following the same format that everybody else is, I'll be talking about what Building and Grounds involves, the department, what our 2024 review is, expectations for 25, and looking forward to 26. So what is the Building and Grounds Department? Lincoln County Building and Grounds is an 8-person department. We have, we manage all of the county-owned buildings, and that would be, the only exception would be potentially some buildings that are taken in under tax deed. Once in a great while, I'll get pulled into conversations on some of those type buildings, but I don't typically get real involved in that. We're also heavily involved in the development expansion of county-owned properties, as with the new Justice Center. And an exception to that would be, as I really wasn't typically involved in the airport projects that are going over there now that we have an airport manager. The department works collaboratively with the highway superintendent and with the Marvsky Airport manager. Basically, we kind of work together to determine what they need from me, and we go from there. At the 4-H Event Center in Lenox, we're involved in both site maintenance and event setups for whatever events we are typically having. So the staff, my staff includes myself, the building superintendent, a lead custodian with 3 custodians underneath of her, building maintenance, senior building maintenance tech, and then 2 regular building maintenance techs. So the custodial department focuses primarily on this structure that we're in right now. So this building and including the old courthouse. So this consists of approximately 66,000 square feet of cleaning space. Of course, some of that is maintenance areas that aren't cleaned, maybe but once a month, but generally, most of the space is touched weekly at the very least. We strive to keep the structure as to the highest cleaning level. So meaning that common areas, we clean multiple times during the day. As you probably have noticed, as when salt's tracked in the building, mud's tracked in the building, we're typically cleaning up pretty quickly right behind it. So the restrooms and the floors are getting cleaned multiple times during the day. We also tried to get through a basic cleaning of every office during the day, and then we do focus with a little deeper clean once a week. Once again, maintenance storage areas are only cleaned monthly or thereabouts. So the maintenance department conducts routine building and grounds maintenance to all sites and handles the office moves, conducts event setup, and performs custodial duties at the event center and at the highway maintenance building. So working with the highway department, we do a light clean on Mondays out there. We do a little heavier clean on Wednesdays, and then the highway department does a final clean on Fridays before they leave. And that's how we're currently working it. As far as the event center, again, we work on event setups and whatnot, but we're heavily involved in the 2 building maintenance guys are heavily involved in outside stuff. So snow removal is a high critical need for them, and then also mowing. So I'll go into a little more detail about what that all involves here. So our 5 main county-owned sites. We have Lincoln County Courthouse and Admin Building. As I said, that's this current structure we're in. It's located here at 104 North Main Street in Canton. And the old courthouse is primarily all occupied by the court side of the county. It's in the 1890s structure, and with an addition to this, we have courtroom 2B and also 2 jury rooms that would be considered in the newer addition. Our administrative offices are all in the new addition from the 2008 edition, and that includes all the administrative offices and the sheriff's office. So this combined structure, as I mentioned earlier, is 66,000 square feet of occupied space. It involves about 0.65 acres of structure, 1.2 acres of mowed turf, and 7 acres of county maintained parking, and an additional 15,500 square feet of sidewalk that we maintain. So to put this in perspective, first of all, the bulk of the parking that's along the courthouse is maintained by the city. If it comes off the street, the city maintains it. That can be good, it can be bad. As some of you probably know, I don't have a lot of control over getting those parking lots cleared, so sometimes they're kind of a mess for the first go-around of a snow event. And then the city will come back that night and clean it a little thoroughly. The sidewalks, again, much like the interior of the building, we try to do all these sidewalks, and on a day where we have continuous snowing, we're probably gonna do them 3, maybe 4 times. So, the initial event, when we can get here before staff gets here, we can typically get down it with machinery, but at some point, it becomes more of a hand shoveling type event. At least along the 2 main runs along Broadway and along Main Street. So this picture here, just the general aerial photo of it, obviously. So again, you can see all the different sidewalks. We have steps here and steps obviously coming up the main entryway. So we maintain all this. We do this sidewalk. It's actually a city-owned sidewalk, but if we have the freedom to do it, we knock it out. Otherwise, this is the new gravel parking lot. And this is the existing, we call it the Sturtevant's parking lot, but it's the parking lot that's always been here since I've been here. as you can tell, both these parking lots about the same size. I think this one holds 32 parking spots because it's marked real well. I think routinely in the gravel parking lot, we're seeing about 16 to 20 people parking in there fairly regularly. It's, as you'll notice today, it's kind of a mess a little bit, so I'm not sure how well it's being used today, but. So again, all of this parking here and all this parking on both sides of the street here is all done by the city. So the next location I want to talk about is the Lincoln County Equipment Storage. So this is what used to be called the Lincoln County Weed Shop. It's the north structure from the original highway shop facility, and we kept it. So it's located at 150 West 7th Avenue or Street in Canton. And so that building's occupied by myself, my department, emergency manager, and sheriff's office. And a lot of it's storage of stuff that we need. But a year or so ago, we opted to heat it because we needed to have a place to melt off the snow equipment, and also sheriff's department needed it for stuff that they were doing during the winter months. It consists of approximately 6,000 square feet of inside storage space, and it's on 22 acres of, it has 22 acres of rental off of that, and I'll show that to you in a second. 7/10 acres of county maintained parking, and 7,250 square feet of maintained sidewalk. So again, basically from this building edge, we maintain all the sidewalks around the outer edge to here. Because of both Harold's and my need to get in and out of this building, this is where the garage doors are at. We try to keep this plowed fairly regularly. This winter's been pretty good for us, obviously, just like Terry. So then this space up here is where a lot of times we'll park extra, like equalization vehicles and whatnot that aren't in use during the winter months. They get parked in here, and then there's a proposal that I'm working with the sheriff's department on to fence this in and make this an impound lot, and then just give our vehicles a little more security. So that fence would go from here, basically over to here, and then over here to here. So you'll be seeing me approach you guys here in the very near future to talk about funding, or that budget money was funded, and it looks like I should be able to do it for the money that's available. So the next facility is the Lincoln County Highway Maintenance Site, and I'm not gonna go into too detail because I don't wanna steal Terry's thunder when he gets to get up here. But basically, it's occupied by all the highway maintenance staff, and it also has all their stockpile materials out back and equipment for annual highway maintenance needs. It consists of 65 acres of land, of which we rent 38.48 acres out for cash rent. It consists of approximately a 75,600 square foot inside storage space that's heated for their primary shop, but then it has an additional salt storage shelter and a small brine mixing building. So my department building, or responsibilities again, is mainly doing the custodial cleaning in addition to their staff. We focus mostly on the office space, and the restrooms and the break room. And then, we're getting very heavily involved in the building maintenance upkeep for the plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and door issues. And then, of course, we do all the mowing out there. And that's about 5 acres of mowed turf in the wettest time of year. Obviously, it slows down as the summer gets hotter, but. So it's kind of hard to see, but this is a basic aerial photo of it. So this is all that rented farmland. And then this is where they have a lot of their equipment stored as far as culverts and their supply materials, like their different types of aggregates and gravel and whatnot. And so all of our mowing involves mowing all this up here, keeping the frontage mowed, and then we kind of mow out here around the ponds a little bit. And of course, once again, that, like I said, that kind of starts to lighten up as the summer gets hotter. So the number 4 county-owned site that I'm involved in is the Lincoln County Fairgrounds Event Center, which is at 27711 South Dakota Highway 17 in Lenox. It's occupied by one or both of my grounds staff right now. They're both reporting there. When the new Justice Center's on site, one will be reporting to that site as, so they'll have to split that up a little bit. It's also occupied by 2 4-H educators and 1 Game Fish and Parks conservation officer. It consists of 34 acres of land. Of this, 12 acres is cash rented for haying, 1.2 acres are structure, 3.7 acres are parking and driveways, and 15 acres are maintained turf, and then the rest is left unmaintained. There's a lot of different areas that cannot be maintained. This site offers approximately 8,400 square feet of heated event space, a 7,200 square foot show ring, which is not heated, of course, and has a dirt floor. And then it has 4 additional 2,520 square foot animal structures. And then there's a 36,000 square foot horse arena. I think we're really proud of the way the horse arena has shaped it up. It's become kind of a premier little area, and I think it's gonna really demand a lot of use in the future. So my department conducts all the building and grounds maintenance at the site, and to include snow removal and event setup. So I didn't do the standard aerial photo that's on our website because all these buildings have been coming up so quick that our pictures is not accurate yet. Talking to GIS, it looks like they'll fly it again next year, and then we'll have the aerial photo with all the buildings. But it's a little hard to tell, but you can see here's the horse arena and our show ring building, and then there's 2 buildings side by side there and 2 buildings or I should say structures. One's an enclosed building, the other 3 are shelters. And then all the way up here is our vet center. Just a note for, while I had this picture pulled up, those of you that know what's going on with emerald ash borer and ash tree management, all these trees along here are ash trees, including the 2 in front of the building. All these trees right here are ash trees. We just removed 16 ash trees right through here, and I got another 40 back behind here that will have to get removed at some point. So the 5th location is the Marvsky Airport in T. It consists of approximately 95 acres of land, and of which 50 acres are cash rented for haying. And for future development, of course, because I'm not going to go into too much detail since Dave just did his presentation last week. But my department basically aids Dave in some grounds maintenance. We do a lot of the weed stuff for him and tree maintenance, tree removals. We obviously are heavily involved in snow removal out there. We take some of the burden off of him to get the snow removal done in a timely manner. And then as a result of that, there's probably quite a bit of turf damage. So we have a lot of cleanup to do in the spring for that. There's 3 county-owned buildings out there, and we will be involved in some HVAC. We just did a pretty major HVAC improvement for the one hangar a couple weeks ago. In fact, one of the guys is there again today, touching some stuff up. But then we're also pulled in for plumbing work and structural repairs. So, my 2024 year in review. So, we completed the demolition projects of the one house that Dave brought up last week that was kind of right off to the north side of the airport. And then we also removed all of the county put-up buildings at the old 4-H grounds here in Canton. So we left it with the 3 original buildings to the site and 1 Quonset that the city or the golf course wanted us to leave for them. In that project, we also moved on and we tore down the old jail across the street where the gravel parking lot's at. And then we also got involved in removing a structure, or at least the foundation, at the new site of the Justice Center. A big project that I've been wanting to get done for a couple of years now is the EFS caulking repair of the admin building. So I feel like we're finally going into hopefully having this building pretty watertight again. We've had caulking issues for a few years now. We did all the window caulking in 2020, and now we did the EFS joints. And that was done back in October. I typically always schedule carpet projects, and when we do carpet projects, we paint those offices, so we did some of those this year. The cement projects, I always have some money in my budget to do cement projects, because there's always constant upgrade on that. And we focus most of that effort around where the old jail was tore down. I did a pretty major elevator oil change out on the main elevator. I originally had it budgeted to do all 3 elevators, but we determined that the other 2 elevators don't get used enough to need it yet. So it'll be 10 years probably before we need to do those. So I've also done some fencing projects on the east side of the 4-H event site and fairgrounds. And I continued with gravel improvements out there as well. So actual building projects, I want to get this right because I worked tight with the Buildings Committee and the Lincoln County 4-H Foundation. So it's a 4-H Buildings Committee, but it's the Lincoln County Fairgrounds Foundation is where all the money is raised for putting up these buildings. And then, and I worked closely then with Clary Buildings Corporation in putting up those 2 additional structures. 2 of those buildings were put up at the end of '23, and the other 2 buildings were put up last spring. So, then I aided the same group and worked with Lennox Electric to complete the electrical installation of all 4 of those new buildings. And we also did some lighting improvements. So then, I worked with, the committee and Flagger Concrete to complete the cement work of, we basically did the Rabbit Poultry Building, which is the Jerry's Automotive Building. And then we also did the cement work, I guess, in the hog shelter, and we did both the wash racks. So I worked with Tipton Digging to do the installation of the water to all the sites. That was a project that was hoped to be done in '23, but it rolled, as it turned out, it rolled into '24 because of weather. So then and then, much like Harold just talked about, we also had a major issue with the flood from '24. As most of you know, the flooding came in from behind the building here, and unfortunately for Harold, probably my worst room for our water penetration was his office. So we spent a lot of time cleaning up in his office and the 2 or 3 offices beside that. Another point to note out is the week before the flood, I had another flood of sorts. We had a major mechanical malfunction out at the highway shop, and it flooded our pit that does the water suppression system, and we lost a $25,000 water suppression pump. So it took us a while to figure out what the heck went wrong on that, and then to get parts ordered and everything, but ultimately insurance covered it because it was a mechanical failure. But that pulled a lot of time in '24. So expectations of '25. We have the LED lighting project. So that's where we're going to upgrade these type fixtures to LED light fixtures. And this was a project that we've already been given grant funding to hopefully do about 90% of the project, 80 to 90%. But a lot of people will say, why are you changing out these fluorescent lights to LED lights? Well, for one, as you can see, there's one that's burned out in the corner here. The cost of replacing the ballast and light fixtures like that is the cost of an actual fixture, an LED fixture. So they're all going to lose their ballast at some point, and it's just better to switch them out now because I won't have that ballast issue. And of course, the utility savings will also help pay for the project in time. So I had a PA system project, and this is something I've been working with Harold and the Sheriff's Department on, but basically for emergency management and other issues, we wanted to be able to communicate to the whole building. We originally were going to do about an $80,000 PA system upgrade, but now we've kind of come to the conclusion that we think we can just do it through an upgrade to our phone system, and it'll come through the phones at each location. That, just so you know, that project, because it will not work with the state phones, so there might be a lapse of coverage for the state side for about 6 months until they get moved to the new building. So the courthouse annex project, this is a project that is funded to potentially put an annex at the Liberty Elementary in Harrisburg. And from my understanding, from talking to people, is it's kind of on hold right now until Harrisburg really decides what they want to do, if they want to move forward with that project themselves or whatnot. So we're just kind of waiting to hear more back on that. So South Storage Security Fence Project, as I mentioned earlier, I showed you the picture of South Storage, worked with the Sheriff's Department. We'd like to put up a security fence around that and use that partially for impound and also for our own vehicles. I just want to point out too that, when there's an accident or something and they have to bring a vehicle in here, we need to kind of have a place to set it, and we kind of want to have it to where the public's not just generally available to use it, get into the equipment and stuff. So then at the fairgrounds, we're planning another small fencing improvement along the north side, and that's basically to keep any livestock from getting into the parking lot and everything when there is livestock out there. Other small projects around the courthouse, as I mentioned before, we'll be doing more carpeting and painting of offices, and we started some of that already. So, so what are we looking forward to in '26? I'm looking to fill one more custodial position in '26. Obviously we're hoping by September '26, we'll be occupying the Justice Center. There's just no way that I'll easily be able to just split my staff in half from custodial to cover that building as well, with the distance between them. I don't anticipate filling that position until closer to the time when I'm gonna need that person. But yes, I'll be asking for that position. Our capital asset needs, I'll obviously need floor cleaning equipment, lawn mowing equipment, snow removal equipment for the Justice Center. We're hoping to use bond monies to do that, but I'll also be putting together numbers of what we might possibly need to fund out of my budget. I have my vehicles. I have one vehicle that's a 2012 Chevy Silverado, and I would like to replace that in '26 with another half-ton pickup. So for the Justice Center is going to be adding about the following amount of work to my plate. We'll gain about 66,500 square feet of new building to clean. And before anybody asks, that does subtract off the space that's considered shelf space. I'm assuming I'll probably still have to get in that shelf space probably once, twice a year probably to do some type of cleanup, because it's going to obviously get dusty and we'll have to do some kind of maintenance to it. And as I noted, and the vacated space that's moving out there right now has been occupying 19,000 square feet of space, so it definitely is a big uptake in amount of cleaning space that will be on my plate. We'll have a total of 240,000 feet of parking lot and driveways. We'll have 22,000 square feet of sidewalks. We'll have 5.72 acres of irrigated, maintained turf, so it will definitely have to be mowed. And we have 24.66 acres of low-maintenance turf. And my experience in the past has been is low-maintenance turf, you'll leave it native, but it can become an eyesore, and at some point, a lot of times I get told we're gonna mow it. So, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Hopefully, we'll be able to get something that looks attractive and it won't be a heavy maintenance burden to me. So other projects proposed in '26 is I've been trying to get air conditioning for the event center. It's generally just, if you really do it, when you figure in air conditioning for a building, you go for a maximum heat of the day and maximum occupancy, and that's gonna have a heavy load. We currently, during the 4-H funding events and the one or two weddings we've had, we've rented a swamp cooler type unit. And that can keep it with a heavy load of people in it at about 80, 85 degrees, which isn't real comfortable, and it gets humid. So, with the addition to, Frank Powell on my staff, who is an HVAC person, we're trying to come up with a way that we can do it in-house and do it as cheap as possible. So, I will put together some numbers, and I'm sure we'll have that discussion in the future of whether we're gonna consider that or not. The Fairgrounds restroom project, that was a project that I was hoping to do off of a grant with a storm shelter type grant like many of the other communities around here have done. It seems like we're kind of getting not a lot of support because of the location in combination with the city of Lenox, and because it's got to have a certain amount of population around it to justify the federal grant monies. So I'm meeting with the 4-H people again, and that's kind of we all know there has to be a restroom facility at some point. So we're trying to come up with a way that maybe it can be funded by them or joint funded by both of us to get that facility and maybe just leave it as a stick building type structure. Much as I was pointed out to me lately, the handrail project out in the front entryway, Commissioner Otten and I were talking about this just a while back, and there was never any handrail put on the walkway up to the main door, and I was going to do it a couple of years ago with concrete improvement out there, and then we kind of just held off because we really don't know what the look of the front entryway will be. But it's probably at the point where I probably need to have a number put back in the budget to do that handrail to make it a little safer to walk up to the front door. And again, I'll continue on with flooring and painting projects. So, challenges of 26 and beyond. I'll be honest, I think I'm gonna need another staff probably in 27 to really make this work. Another custodial staff. I sit and I play out how it's gonna work, and my biggest dilemma is covering both this building and that building when I have somebody gone, or if I have multiple people gone. That's gonna be the real challenge for me if I only have a staff of 5 custodians trying to cover it. We definitely would not be able to maintain anywhere close to the continuous cleaning like we have done in the past if we didn't have that additional person in 27. But as you can see, the next dilemma is what are we gonna do with the old courthouse? So the old courthouse will find itself empty in a year and a half or less. And we know that we've been putting off maintenance because we really didn't know what we were gonna do with that structure. And from the study we did back in 2002, there was a lot of expense that would have to get done to make that a good building. So I broke it out from that study. It was HVAC improvements was $715,000. The interior was $545,000, and structural was $375,000. Now, even if we let it sit empty, we're going to have to move forward and do at least most of that structural improvements. And again, that's based off of I wrote that wrong. It's 2020, not 2002. I guarantee you those numbers have come up a great deal in the last 3 years. So we're definitely gonna need to know and start thinking about what we're gonna do, because we cannot allow the old courthouse to not be structurally improved, being it's still attached to this building. So at the very least, in 26 as well, I will probably put together some kind of cost estimate of trying to have some engineering and architectural firms give us better numbers again, so we know what we're dealing with. But so that's it. Any questions for me?
Thank you, John. That was very complete. Got a lot of territory, a lot of ground space, a lot of buildings. We got one big one coming on, too.
I serve as John's liaison from the commission. I know we spend a lot of time together, John, and you put together a pretty good report. And I know you and I go round and round with these numbers, and I don't like them. We're gonna have to confront them, though, and that's what you and I talked about. So I appreciate the last slide you put in there called Challenges for 2026 and Beyond, because we do need to start to wrestle with this issue. And, keep it or get rid of it. And we're going to need to know what the cost-benefit analysis is on that. So thank you for putting that in there. I just want to let folks know, John's a hard worker. when the flooding was going on here this last summer, you know, he calls me, it's probably 8 o'clock on Friday night or whenever it was, and he just said, you know, the water tried to invade the building and it came from the north here and it all flowed down south, and him and his team were, and I think what was somebody from the 9/11 Center as well, was out there putting sandbags around the doors. And then I think my son and I came down here later that night, and then we also came down that next day and saw the water that got in the building. So, but it would have been a lot worse if it wasn't for you and your team. So thank you for spending a lot of hours and a lot of time on protecting the buildings so that, you know, they can be maintained and kept good into the future. So thanks for doing that, John. I don't really have any questions per se, because you and I have met on all this, but I do want to let people know that we get a lot of comments about how well kept up the courthouse is. I start to joke with your folks that they are strategically positioning themselves at the doors when I leave on Tuesday mornings here after these meetings. They're there when I leave. But they do a very good job. And, you know, as far as it relates to the budget issues, which are the most important, there's not only a cost to putting up that new building out there, there's a cost to furnishing it, and there's a cost to staffing it and maintaining it. And we now are gonna have to start to wrestle with those issues. How many people, how much equipment? You know, I'm just going through the list here. I think, we're gonna need to hear budget numbers from the state's attorney, the sheriff, maybe the public defender. I'm not sure about that. Definitely custodial. And I don't know if I'm leaving anybody out from that. If I have, my apologies, but those are all budget line items that people are gonna have. I mean, I assume for the most part, for what we call FF&E, furniture, finishings, and equipment, these departments are just, we're gonna get a truck and trailer and they're gonna haul their stuff over there and we're gonna use it. I hope we're not purchasing all brand-new equipment for every single employee when they could just take their desk and their chair with them. But, and I haven't heard any discussion on that yet, but I do think that's something that needs to be flagged, is we've got to start talking about that as it relates to building and grounds.
Any other commissioners have questions for John? All right, if not, we're gonna circle back to the items that were on our consent agenda earlier. The first one of which is to approve and authorize the chair to execute Form E that was submitted by Pure Bliss Farms out in T.
Linda Montgomery from Fairview, South Dakota. How do I make that show up on the screen? Thank you. Get that in. I'm talking about Pure Bliss Farms LLC in T, South Dakota. One thing I hadn't caught before I brought this forward is that this is a cultivation project, so it's going to be farming marijuana plants. And I'm looking at the compliance, your first question there.
Linda, is there anything about this form that you think is incorrect?
It's just not very much information.
This is a state form.
Yes, I know
So
that.
understand that. Do you think there's anything that is incorrect on this form?
Yes, I
What?
do. It's, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
what do you
don't mean to make you irritated or anything.
No, you're
This
not.
says the type, it's cultivation. Number 2, it says how many establishments are allowed in this jurisdiction for cultivation, manufacturing, testing, and dispensary. Now, is this just going to be a pot farm? That's only going,
Linda, this is a building over on the 4-lane highway going into T.
but it's growing medical marijuana, right?
I don't know if they're growing or not. That's not really part of what this form is for.
Well, it says cultivation, so that means that when I looked at cultivation, it says cannabis cultivation refers to the practice and process of producing cannabis flowers. And when I look at this, on that first question, it says, how many medical marijuana places, be it growing, being dispensing medical marijuana, are we allowing in Lincoln County?
There is no limit. That's why the form is filled out the way that it is filled out.
Okay. And I, as a citizen, really want this to be a public hearing on these medical marijuana places. I don't think it's what Lincoln County should be known for.
This is a renewal. The public hearing was already done when this was established. This is a form that's required from the state every year on an establishment that has been established for 4 or 5 years.
I didn't see, where's the renewal?
It's a form that the state is requiring every year on an establishment that's already been established. The public hearing was a couple years ago.
But at that time, I remember that, and that's where I'm coming back to, we have not made a plan in Lincoln County for how many places for marijuana, medical marijuana are we going to have. I'm sorry, I did not understand that this was a renewal. It doesn't say renewal. And so I just, those are my concerns. I don't see anything wrong with the form, except how do we know, I guess only by the form, that there are no other cultivation, no other pot farms within this area or jurisdiction? And I just have major concerns, but I'll let you go ahead and do. Oh, I'm going to need that for next time.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Schmidt and a second from Commissioner Aaron's. Alicia, will you go ahead and call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Otten,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Putnam,
Yes.
Landine.
Yes. All right, motion carries.
Number 9.
Next item on our, was on our consent, and the
Yes.
last item on our regular agenda now is to approve and authorize the chair to execute an agreement with Clear Glove in the amount of $26,625 for a period of 3 years. So it is $26,625 per year
Well, no, it says
for 3 years.
for a 3-year term. And I
Correct.
guess that's confusing, because to me it looks like we are only going to pay $26,000 for a 3-year term. And on the agreement service order, it is clearly stated that annually, in advance, we'll pay $26,625. I just want it clarified for the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
That was a Scribner error, and it will be that amount for every year for the annual fee.
Great. I think that was clear from the contract itself, but. Okay, can I get, motion to approve?
Otten.
And a second, please?
Second.
I've got a motion from Commissioner Otten and a second from Commissioner Schmidt. Any discussion? All right, Alicia, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Otten,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Putnam,
Yes.
Landine.
Yes, motion carries. And then we have our opportunity for public comment for items not on the agenda.
Good morning again, Scott Montgomery Fairview.
Good morning.
I'd just like to say the people are winning on the prison. I hope you're aware of that. The funding hasn't been approved, and I feel real good about that. Another thing I'd like to bring up is House Bill 1261. That's appears to me like it's an attempt to remove local control. It's a miniature SB 201. You know, SB 201 was statewide, now they're trying to make this countywide. My understanding, the reason this bill is brought is because some of these major dairies haven't played well with the townships or their neighbors, and now they want the county to step in and do something about it. And I think we should stand firm and say no. Let the townships run the township. I mean, if these dairies need to trespass, something is wrong. So I would ask that this commission contacts everybody that can contact out there at the state and stand against this thing. Let's give local control, local control. I mean, I hear them chanting local control, local control, local control, but now they want to take local control away. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak this morning? All right. Drew, was that interview at 10?
It is.
So I'm running late on that. Are there any commissioner reports? All right, and did we need executive session for anything? All right, then with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second, Otten.
Excuse me, I'm so sorry.
You want to stay? Okay.
No.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you.